Hey guys, yeah, I saw some videos today that really made me think about how scummy people can be, and these were videos of real lowlives getting evicted from properties that they thought belonged to them, but they really didn't because it doesn't belong to them. It belongs to the landlord, and they weren't paying their rent. And it was really insane to see like how people who get evicted, how they act like such freaking victims. Like it's insane. The amount of a lack of accountability is just amazing to me. I saw a video today of a guy who was trying to evict some scoundrel who wasn't paying his rent. And the landlord was like, "Listen, you got to go. You have until this day to leave. Blah 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 blah." And this guy starts harping about how the house was not built properly and there was damage on the house and blah, 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 blah. And that's why I didn't pay the rent and yada, yada, yada. And he's so angry. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so if the house is so bad, why the hell are you living in it? Like, if it's so unlivable, why the hell are you living in this house? It's insane to me. But then the guy was like, listen, I'm really sorry that you don't like the house. I'm really sorry that you feel offended or that you feel like you weren't being served properly or whatever. Yada yada. Like this landlord was the nicest guy ever. Like he was super super nice. And the more nice that this landlord acted, like the bigger the asshole the tenant became. And it came to the point where the tenant was like, your work is garbage, and if you want, I'll leave by Wednesday, but I'll fix up your whole house for free. Basically saying, I'll leave, and I'll fix up your house for free, as long as I don't have to pay the rent. Like the guy was such a scoundrel. He was trying to double cross this landlord. It was really really crazy. And then he began talking about how he began really berating this landlord with insults. It was insane, like saying the most just degenerate, the most vulgar type of insults you can think of. It was really, really crazy. I don't even want to tell you guys what these insults were because they were just too much. And it was amazing, like how entitled this guy felt. He felt like because he was the tenant that he had the right to act like such a freaking low life scoundrel. And then I saw another video that came out. It came out in 2020, in January of 2020. Believe it or not, this event took place in Oakland, California, where I was born. And these two women basically just took over this landlord's property. I don't know how they got in there. I'm not entirely sure if they were tenants at one point in time, but they just squatted in this guy's house and barricaded it and just took over. I mean, I don't mean literally that they barricaded the house, but I mean that figuratively. Like it was as if they barricaded the house and they just refused to leave. And eventually the police got involved. And one of the cops had one of those big battering rams that they used to bust open the doors of criminals. And after like the third or fourth strike on the door with this battering ram, the door just broke right open and they had to force these two women out. And I couldn't understand what these women were saying, but you could just tell by the way that they were talking that they were bitching and complaining about something. It was so pathetic. But do you know what was even more pathetic and just absolutely insane? It was the crowd of crazy hysterical leftists in front of the house raising up their little BLM fists, acting like some great atrocity had been taking place. Like it was insane. They were all like raising up their fists and everything, and they interviewed one of the activists, and she said something like, "What kind of a country do we live in?" where women can't even stay in their house without being arrested at 5:30 in the morning. It's like, what a bullshit argument. Like, who cares if it was 5:30 in the morning? It could have been 4:30 in the morning. It could have been 3:30 in the morning. It doesn't matter. That's not an argument. These people were stealing a man's house. They were hijacking a man's property. And you have no right to do that. And I'm watching this video, and then I started thinking, some hours after I watched the video, I started thinking to myself, oh my gosh, like, this is the reason why the whole BLM movement will never succeed in this country. Like, it will never be taken fully seriously in the United States. Like, if that, because these people are so uneducated. People who are a part of Black Lives Matter, they are very uneducated. Like, not even Black Lives Matter, like the people who are a part of this, how do I describe it? It's like, the afro wearing, fist raising movement or whatever, like people who are a part of it. A lot of these people, actually, I want to say almost 100% of these people are extremely uneducated, and they cannot articulate an actual argument that makes sense. Like saying something like, what kind of a country do we live in where a woman can't be in her home without being arrested at 5:30 in the morning? Like, that is not an argument. Like, you committed a crime, and no one is going to take such a mentality seriously. And I remember I scrolled down to the comments section underneath the video, and it was like every single comment supported the landlord. No one supported the squatters. Nobody. Democrats aren't going to support that type of stuff because they are Democrat landlords, they are liberal landlords, and obviously conservatives and Republicans are not going to buy into that because they're conservative and they're Republican. But you have conservative landlords, you have liberal landlords, you have Democrat landlords. No one's going to put up with that sort of crap. And that whole mentality of justice over anything, like, it doesn't matter how despicable the person is, just to sit there and like call for justice at every little moment, no matter how low class, no matter how just garbage someone's behavior can be, to me, it's laughable. Like, I can't even take it seriously. I can't even consider it a threat. Like, I'm actually more, this is going to sound so, it's going to sound a little bit like adventuresome, but I really believe this. I truly feel more threatened by like Iranian nationalism or German nationalism than I do a bunch of crazy BLMers. Like, they're not going to take over America, and they're not going to transform America into some kind of like communist regime or something like that. It's just not going to work out. The only thing that I'm worried about when it comes to the BLM crowd is how they could accelerate the other side into deeper radicalization. Like, that's the only thing that actually concerns me, is how their stupidity and their just brain dead mentality could actually radicalize the other side. Because the other side thinks, wow, these people are communists, they're going to take over America, we better do something, blah, 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 blah. And then they become more radical and they get more into like the right-wing fanaticism and Jacobinism and things like that. That's the only place where I see this type of thing being a threat to American society. I mean, of course, also the fact that these people will destroy property, they will do all sorts of things like that. But how many Americans, like, does destroying property actually convince people to be on their side? Well, obviously not. Like, the majority of people are not going to side with that. But then I also started thinking about like how low class people can be and how trashy people can be. People can be so freaking trashy, and many people will actually attack people who actually do good for society. Like, they'll hate their landlord. They want to kill landlords. You have a lot of this sort of rhetoric online, like, oh, we hate landlords. We hate this. Like, okay, why the hell are you renting from them then? It's so ridiculous. Pay your rent. If you make an agreement with somebody, pay your freaking rent. It's not that difficult. It doesn't take a rocket scientist. If you don't pay your rent, you're going to get evicted. Like, plain and simple. But I started thinking, do you know some of the most, I actually want to say the crappiest, most garbage people I've ever met are the types of people who are always showing off about how hard they work. Like I work so hard. I work so hard. I work this. I do this. I do that. It's like shut the hell up already. Shut the hell up already. It's like everybody works to some extent or another, right? Some people work harder than others. There are people who work not that hard and they make more money than you. So what? So freaking what? They have made that money. That's it. That's what the market allows. I mean, isn't that what capitalism is about, right? Allowing the market to do what it does best. Working with the market. And you have people who are like, yeah, I work really hard. I work on a forklift. I do this. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, people tell me stuff like that. I knew a guy who would always talk about how hard he used to work. I used to work on a forklift. I used to do the. And when I first heard it, I was like, okay, fine, whatever. Like, I'm just getting to know this person. But then it was like incessant. It became incessant where it was just, oh yeah, I used to work really hard. Man, I worked really hard. Back in the day, I used to work really hard. After a while, you're just like, could you please shut the hell up? Like, I don't care, I honestly don't care how hard people work. I don't really care. If I first meet somebody and they tell me how hard they work, it's like, okay, fine. But if it becomes incessant to the point where it's something that determines their identity, that is insane to me. That becomes just hysterical. And it becomes, at that point, it just becomes a form of vanity, a form of vanity. Like, I worked so hard, I did this, I did that. They think that the world owes them something. The most dangerous people in the world, are those who think the world owes them something. Those are the most dangerous people in the world. Those are the people who joined the Nazi Party. They're the people who joined the communists and the Bolsheviks. Those are the people who joined the Jacobins in the French Revolution. Those are the types of people. Those are the most dangerous people in the world, and they are the most scoundrelly, low-life people in the world because they think the world owes them something, and they think that because they're not as successful as other people, that everybody should suffer. And once they get the power, they end up murdering millions of people. Anyway, those are my thoughts for today. Hope you guys enjoyed this message. Hope you guys have learned something. You guys just heard some theology. God bless.